Underestimated. Lieutenant Maya Keller stood motionless as the towering Vanori commander circled her, his four amber eyes narrowed in assessment. The bridge of the warship Dawnbreaker had fallen silent. All 20 alien crew members staring at the human who'd just been assigned to their elite unit. At 5'9", Maya was dwarfed by the shortest Vanori present, their exoskeletal frames easily reaching 7 feet. "This is what Central Command sends us." Commander Zextal rumbled, mandibles clicking in what Maya recognized as contempt. A soft skin. For a Tier 1 tactical mission. Maya kept her gaze forward, hands clasped behind her back. 3 years in interspecies military service had taught her that showing emotion, especially anger, only reinforced alien stereotypes about humans being unstable and primitive. "Sir," she said evenly, "I'm Lieutenant Maya Keller, interspecies combat specialist, assigned by Admiral Vorthak himself." A ripple of clicking mandibles spread across the bridge. Laughter. The sound grated against Maya's ears, but her expression remained neutral. "The Admiral must have developed a sense of humor," Lieutenant Krell said, towering over a console. His reinforced carapace gleamed under the blue lights. "Humans can barely survive atmospheric changes without technological assistance. What use is one in combat?" Commander Zextal circled back to face Maya. "What are your qualifications, human?" "Beyond being. Fragile." Maya met his gaze. "Top graduate from the Interspecies Combat Academy. Specialized in adaptive tactics, stealth operations, and environmental exploitation. Fluent in 7 galactic languages including High Vanori. 3 successful deployments, including the Mera Outpost recovery mission." Mera Outpost. Second Officer Telix clicked her mandibles, head tilting. "My cousin was stationed there. Said they were rescued by a..." She stopped, reassessing Maya. "By a human. That was you." Maya nodded once. "Yes, Mom." Commander Zextal waved a dismissive claw. "One successful mission doesn't qualify you for the Dawnbreaker. We are the Vanguard's elite tactical unit." "I understand, sir." "No, you don't." The commander leaned closer, his towering frame casting Maya in shadow. "We operate in extreme conditions, pressure zones that would crush your fragile bones, temperatures that would boil your thin blood, toxicity levels that would dissolve your soft lungs. What can you possibly contribute that one of my Vanori warriors cannot?" Before Maya could respond, the tactical officer called out, "Commander, approaching the Nerathian Nebula. ETA to drop point. 17 minutes. Prepare the squad," Zextal ordered, turning away from Maya. "Lieutenant Keller, you will remain on the bridge during the operation. Observe. That's all." Maya felt her jaw tighten but nodded. "Yes, sir." For the next hour, Maya stood at the auxiliary station, reviewing mission parameters on her datapad while the Vanori crew prepared for deployment. The operation was straightforward but dangerous. Infiltrate a smuggler's outpost hidden in the nebula. Retrieve classified intelligence. Eliminate resistance if necessary. The Dawnbreaker slowed as it entered the outer edges of the nebula, ionized gas swirling around the viewports in mesmerizing patterns of purple and blue. Maya studied the sensor readings with growing concern. "Sir," she said, addressing Commander Zextal, "these energy signatures don't match the briefing data." The commander didn't even turn to look at her. "Nebulas fluctuate. Human. Basic astrophysics." "Not like this," Maya persisted. "These are artificial patterns. Dispersed, but regular." Lieutenant Krell clicked his mandibles. "Humans see patterns where none exist. It's your species' evolutionary flaw." Maya ignored him, continuing to analyze the data. Something wasn't right. The nebula's density was increasing too rapidly, creating blind spots in their sensors. Training and instinct told her they were flying into ambush, she shouted, just as the first impact rocked the ship. Warning klaxons blared as the Dawnbreaker shuddered under multiple hits. The view screen flashed with explosions as hidden mines detonated around them. Commander Zextal roared orders as his crew scrambled to battle stations. Shields at 60%. The defensive systems officer called out. Multiple hostiles decloaking. Maya gripped her console as another blast rocked the ship. The tactical display showed 5 enemy vessels emerging from the nebula's depths, their weapons already firing. The smugglers had been expecting them. Return fire, Zextal commanded. Evasive pattern Theta 6. The Dawnbreaker banked hard, its advanced propulsion systems straining as it attempted to maneuver through the minefield. A devastating blast hit their port side, sending several crew members flying across the bridge. Maya felt the ship's artificial gravity fluctuate as emergency systems engage. Engineering reports critical damage. Second Officer Telek shouted over the alarms. Main power grid compromised. Maya analyzed the tactical display. The smugglers' ships were employing a classic encirclement strategy, cutting off escape routes. But there was a pattern to their movements, a weakness she recognized from similar tactics used by Centauri pirates. "Sir," she called to Commander Zextal, "they're using a Centauri envelope formation. There's a blind spot if we dive toward the nebula core at a 37-degree angle." The commander ignored her, barking orders to his tactical officer instead. Another hit rocked the ship, more violent than before. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the dim red glow of emergency lighting. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Someone shouted. "Casualty reports incoming." Maya saw her opening when Commander Zextal rushed to assist an injured officer. She slid into the vacant tactical station, her fingers flying over the alien controls. 3 years of cross-training had prepared her for this. "What are you doing?" Lieutenant Krell demanded, reaching to pull her away. "That's a restricted station." "Saving our lives," Maya replied, not looking up. She activated the main thrusters and calculated the vector. Braced for maneuver. The Dawnbreaker lurched as Maya executed a tight spiral dive, plunging toward the nebula's denser regions at precisely the angle she'd identified. The enemy ships struggled to adjust their formation, their fire momentarily scattered and ineffective. "What have you done?" Commander Zextal roared, returning to find a human at his tactical controls. "You'll kill us all. The nebula core will crush our hull." "No, it won't," Maya countered, her eyes fixed on the readings. "The density pocket ends in 3, 2, 1. The ship burst through a cloud of ionized gas into a relatively clear zone, the sudden maneuver having thrown off their pursuers. Maya immediately cut the main engines and activated only the maneuvering thrusters, guiding the wounded ship into the shadow of a large debris field. "Minimal power signatures only," she ordered. "They'll lose us in the background radiation." The bridge was silent except for the muted alarms and groans of injured crew. Commander Zextal stared at the view screen, where the enemy ships could be seen searching in the wrong section of the nebula. "How did you know?" he finally asked, mandibles clicking softly. "Human instinct," Maya replied. "We recognize patterns because we evolved as both predator and prey. Those smugglers are using modified Centauri tactics. I've fought them before." Second Officer Telek's approach, her exoskeleton scorched from an electrical fire. "Commander, we have 17 wounded, including most of the engineering team. The main reactor is stable but operating at 30% capacity. We cannot outrun them if discovered." Maya stood from the tactical station, relinquishing it to its proper officer. "Sir, permission to access the ship's external maintenance systems." "For what purpose?" Zextal asked, suspicion evident in his tone. "I have an idea," Maya said, "but I'll need to go outside." The commander's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of disbelief among Vanori. Outside, into the nebula. The radiation alone would. "Human bodies are more radiation-resistant than Vanori," Maya interrupted. "Our cells repair damage more efficiently. I can survive exposure for up to 20 minutes with basic protection." Murmurs spread across the bridge. This was apparently news to the alien crew. "And what exactly do you plan to do outside my ship, Lieutenant?" Zextal asked. Maya pointed to the tactical display. "Those smugglers are using quantum resonance to communicate between ships. If I can access the external sensor array, I can reconfigure it to disrupt their frequencies. They won't be able to coordinate their search patterns." The commander considered her for a long moment, mandibles working silently as he weighed the options. Finally, he gave a single click of decision. "Very well, Lieutenant Keller. You have 15 minutes. Lieutenant Krell will accompany you to the airlock." Krell's exoskeleton stiffened in protest, but he saluted. "Yes, Commander." As Maya followed Krell toward the exit, she caught snippets of conversation behind her. "Never seen anything like it. How did she calculate that blind spot? Perhaps humans aren't completely useless." The ship trembled as another system failed somewhere in the damaged engineering section. Maya quickened her pace. The Dawnbreaker was wounded but not defeated, and for the first time since her arrival, she sensed the beginnings of something beyond contempt from her alien colleagues. Not respect, not yet, but opportunity. She had 15 minutes to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy's dominant species. Maya Keller intended to use every second. Vindication. The exterior of the Dawnbreaker resembled a wounded predator. Scorch marks scarred its sleek hull, and several armor plates had been sheared away completely, exposing the vessel's inner structure to the nebula's corrosive gases. Maya Keller moved carefully along the maintenance rails, the magnetic grips on her boots the only thing keeping her anchored to the ship. 7 minutes elapsed. "Human," Lieutenant Krell's voice crackled through her helmet comm. "Your fragile body has 8 minutes of viable exposure remaining." Maya didn't waste breath responding. The radiation was already making her skin tingle uncomfortably beneath the protective suit, but she'd endured worse. She reached the main sensor array, a sprawling network of crystalline receptors that formed a latticework across the ship's dorsal section. "I've reached the array," she reported, extracting tools from her utility belt. "Beginning reconfiguration now." Her fingers moved with practiced precision despite the unwieldy gloves. Unlike the rigid, chitinous digits of the Venori, human hands possessed a dexterity that made them uniquely suited for delicate work. She bypassed several damaged circuits and rerouted power from secondary systems. "What exactly are you attempting?" Krell asked, curiosity seeping through his disdain. Maya connected a small device from her belt to the array. Humans have an old military technique called ghosting. Before advanced technology, our naval vessels would create false sonar signatures to confuse enemy ships. I'm adapting the principle to quantum frequencies. She finished the final connections and activated her device. The sensor array hummed as it absorbed the new programming. "Commander," she called, "activate passage scanners. You should be detecting multiple false Dawnbreaker signatures throughout the nebula." On the bridge, Commander Zextal watched in fascination as the tactical display suddenly showed echoes of their ship scattered across a 20-kilometer radius. The smugglers' vessels immediately changed course, breaking formation to investigate different signals. "They've taken the bait," Second Officer Telix reported. "Their communication patterns have become erratic. They're splitting up." Maya smiled inside her helmet. "Perfect. Now for Phase 2. She detached herself from the maintenance rail and pushed off, using her suit's maneuvering thrusters to guide her toward a jagged tear in the hull nearby. The opening led to a maintenance shaft that would allow her to re-enter the ship without going through the airlock, saving precious minutes. "What are you doing?" Krell demanded. "Return to the designated airlock immediately." "No time," Maya replied, squeezing through the damaged section. "I need to reach the armory." Once back inside, Maya discarded her radiation-contaminated suit in a containment field and sprinted through the dim corridors. Emergency lighting cast everything in a blood-red glow as she navigated around injured crew members being treated in the hallways. The medical bay was overflowing. She arrived at the bridge just as Commander Zextal was receiving another damage report. "Life support is failing on decks 6 through 8, an officer reported. Estimated complete system failure in 43 minutes. The commander turned as Maya entered. His expression was unreadable to most non-Vanori, but Maya had studied their micro-expressions. He was surprised and impressed by her quick return. "Your ghosting bought us time," he acknowledged, "but we remain crippled. The mission is compromised." Maya stepped forward, ignoring the lingering radiation sickness making her stomach churn. "The mission can still succeed, sir." "Explain." "The smugglers expect us to retreat or call for reinforcements. They don't know how badly we're damaged. We can use that." Maya gestured to the tactical display. "One of their ships has broken off to investigate a ghost signal near these coordinates. If a small team takes our remaining functional shuttle, we can board their vessel, commandeer it, and complete the original mission." Stunned silence fell across the bridge. Even for Vanori, known throughout the galaxy for their aggressive tactics, this was audacious. "You propose to capture an enemy vessel with a small team." Zextal's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Define small." "One," Maya said firmly. "Me." The bridge erupted in clicking protestations. Lieutenant Krell stepped forward, towering over Maya. "This is absurd. Even for a human. You cannot possibly." "I can," Maya interrupted. "The radiation exposure has already affected me. My life expectancy is reduced to approximately 72 hours without advanced medical intervention. But that's more than enough time." Commander Zextal studied her with all four eyes. "You would sacrifice yourself to complete the mission?" "Yes." Maya's voice was steady. "But I don't intend to die. Smugglers' ships always carry medical supplies, including radiation treatment. I'll stabilize myself after taking control." "And how exactly will one small human overcome a ship of armed smugglers?" Second Officer Telix asked, though her tone held more curiosity than doubt now. Maya smiled grimly. "Because I'm small. Because I'm human. Because they'll underestimate me, just as you all did." The commander was silent for a long moment before gesturing to the tactical officer. "Show me the enemy vessel's specifications." The display changed to show a schematic of a modified Centauri frigate, bristling with illegal weapon systems. Maya stepped closer, analyzing the design. "Standard Centauri ventilation system," she noted. "Designed for beings twice my size. I can move through it undetected." She pointed to a section near the engineering compartment. "And they always place self-destruct mechanisms here. Accessible for their authorization, vulnerable to someone who knows what to look for." Zextal's mandibles worked silently as he considered the plan. Finally, he gave the clicking sound of affirmation. "Prepare the shuttle," he ordered. "Lieutenant Keller, you have command of this operation." 20 minutes later, Maya launched in the ship's remaining shuttle, supposedly on a desperate escape attempt. As anticipated, the isolated smuggler vessel immediately moved to intercept, eager for an easy capture. What they couldn't know was that Maya had ejected from the shuttle moments after launch, using a personal thruster pack to position herself directly in the smuggler ship's path. As the larger vessel moved to capture the empty shuttle with its tractor beam, Maya maneuvered to its underside, finding an external maintenance hatch. The code she'd extracted from the Dawnbreaker's intelligence database worked perfectly. She was inside. The ventilation system was exactly as she'd predicted, designed for the larger Centauri physiology, leaving ample room for a human to crawl through. Maya moved silently, listening to the confused chatter of the smugglers as they discovered the empty shuttle. Must have escaped in a survival pod. Scan for life signs. Captain wants the shuttle searched anyway. Maya reached a junction above the ship's command center. Through the grate, she could see 8 smugglers, a mix of Centauri and other species, all focused on the mystery of the empty shuttle. None were looking up. She removed 3 small devices from her tactical vest and activated them. The first was a localized EMP that would temporarily disable the ship's internal sensors. The second was a neural disruptor calibrated to the specific brain patterns of the species below. The third was a smoke grenade. Sometimes the oldest tactics were still the most effective. Maya dropped all three through the grate and covered her eyes. The command center erupted in chaos. Blinded, disoriented, and unable to communicate effectively, the smugglers never stood a chance against Maya's precise, methodical assault. She dropped into the room and moved like a shadow, striking vital nerve clusters and pressure points. Her smaller size made her a difficult target in the smoke, and her specialized combat training had taught her exactly where different species were vulnerable. In under 2 minutes, all 8 smugglers were unconscious or incapacitated. Maya secured them efficiently, then took control of the ship's systems. As she'd predicted, the vessel carried not only the intelligence data they'd been sent to retrieve, but additional information that would be invaluable to Alliance Command. Maya activated the communication system. Dawnbreaker, this is Lieutenant Keller. Enemy vessel secured. Preparing to dock with you for evacuation and medical assistance. There was a brief silence before Commander Zextal's voice responded, a new note in his tone that Maya had never heard directed at a human before. Respect. Well done, Lieutenant. Approach vector transmitted. The medical team will be ready. As she guided the captured vessel back toward the damaged Dawnbreaker, Maya noticed the other smuggler ships returning, having realized the deception. But it was too late. She transmitted a signal using their own communication frequency, a warning that their companion vessel was now rigged with a self-destruct mechanism that would detonate if they approached. It wasn't true, but they had no way of knowing that. The smugglers kept their distance as Maya completed the docking procedure. When she stepped back onto the Dawnbreaker's bridge, her radiation sickness was evident. Her skin was pale, nosebleeds had left dried blood around her nostrils, and she walked with the careful movements of someone in significant pain. But she stood straight as she approached Commander Zextal. Mission accomplished, sir, she reported, handing him a data crystal. Complete intelligence package recovered, plus additional smuggler network information. Captured vessel has advanced medical facilities and can accommodate all our wounded. Its engines are undamaged and can tow us to the nearest Alliance outpost. The bridge was silent. Maya swayed slightly but caught herself. Lieutenant Keller requires immediate medical attention, Commander Zextal announced, his voice ringing with authority. And the highest commendation Alliance Command can bestow. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You have taught the Venori something we did not expect to learn from your kind. Sir? Maya asked, fighting to remain conscious. That strength comes in many forms. The commander's mandibles clicked once, not in laughter or contempt, but in acknowledgement. The galaxy has underestimated humans. I will ensure that mistake is not repeated. As medical officers guided her toward treatment, Maya heard Lieutenant Krell addressing the other officers. The human moved through their ventilation system like a ghost and took down 8 armed smugglers alone. Perhaps we should reconsider our ship designs. Maya smiled despite the pain. One mission, one human, and perhaps the beginning of a new understanding in the galaxy. Sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all.